This show is brought to you by listeners and viewers like you. Evanex.com Tesla accessories, our TeslaOwnersOnline.com community, and our Patreon supporters at patreon.com/TeslaOwnersOnline. Well, we're back doing another show. How you guys been?
Good.
Excellent.
Yeah? Surviving amidst everything? I mean, you're not in Texas, not freezing your butt off, right?
Oh,
Nope.
Texas.
Poor guys.
Came this close to washing the car today. It was like +5. So what's that, 40-something degrees Fahrenheit out? I mean, I have 7 feet of snow on my front lawn at where the snowbank is, and I could have washed the car. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen.
I know, it's crazy. Crazy weather. I don't know. We're still in the snow belt. It is actually starting to warm up a little bit, but I'm so fed up with the snow and stuff. I mean, we missed our trip to Florida, which is usually the reset for me in the wintertime. But unfortunately, yeah. But there are some positive things, though. I thought we'd start off the show by watching the most intense and unbelievable 3 minutes that we've experienced probably in the last, 10 years. I'm going to share something out with you guys, and we're going to rewatch Perseverance's landing. It's about 3 minutes long.
We are starting the straighten up and fly right maneuver, where the spacecraft will jettison the entry balance masses in preparation for parachute deploy and to roll over to give the radar a better look at the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Applicant indicates chute deploy.
The navigation has confirmed that the parachute has deployed, and we are seeing significant deceleration.
Did you guys know that was an encoded message?
Dare mighty things.
140 meters per second at an altitude of about 12 kilometers from the surface of Mars.
Look at the aeroshell dropping away.
Heat shield set.
Perseverance is now slowed to subsonic speeds, and the heat shield has been separated. This allows both the radar and the cameras to get their first look at the surface. Current velocity is 145 meters per second at an altitude of about 9.5 kilometers above the surface.
It's in free fall now. I'm going to zoom ahead a little bit, and we can watch the rest of this.
2.6 kilometers from the surface of Mars.
So now it's under powered descent.
The backshell has separated. We are currently performing the divert maneuver. Current velocity is about 75 meters per second at an altitude of about a kilometer off the surface of Mars.
Now we're in
Here
powered
on safety
descent.
Bravo.
We have completed our terrain relative navigation. Current speed is about 30 meters per second, altitude of about 300 meters off the surface of Mars.
Here comes
We
the
have
dust.
started our constant velocity accordion, which means we are conducting the sky crane,
This is
sky
epic.
crane maneuver.
Watch this. Oh,
Sky
that's
crane
the
maneuver has
coolest thing
started.
ever.
Like you'd swear it was a
About
sim.
20 meters off the
I
surface.
know, it's nuts. Look at that. Just dropping, and then there's
We're getting
touchdown,
signal from MRO.
and then the cables are cut,
Tango Delta.
and there
Touchdown
goes.
confirmed.
There
Perseverance
goes.
safely on the surface of Mars, ready to begin seeking the sands of past life.
That was crazy.
And what was crazy about that, too, was that all the data that's coming back from the orbiter, all the data that's coming back from the lander, all of that, it's minutes behind what actually happened. So by the time we got it, it was like 7+ minutes after
12.
it actually made touchdown.
Yeah.
So we're all like, all right, I remember texting you guys going, well, Perseverance is down. We know it's on the surface. We're just waiting for confirmation, but like it's basically there.
Well, it's either
And
crashed
either
or it's
way-
actually landed.
Yeah,
successfully.
It's either there in one piece or many pieces. That's
Yeah.
it. Exactly.
And that's the
Yeah.
thing that's really quite impressive with this stuff is because of the delay. It's 12 minutes. It's 22 minutes as a round trip if you're going to send it messages. Is this stuff has to be completely automated. There is no, okay, do this. It's like the whole thing has to be done completely by itself. Anyways, really looking forward to seeing a lot more information from this. This is pretty epic. I mean, the fact that they put the only thing that failed was one of the cameras looking up, looking at the parachutes. They had a failure.
Yeah.
And then one of the microphones on the rover. They were hoping to catch one of the. Well, actually, they had two microphones. They had a redundant one, so they did get a little bit of noise in terms of. They didn't catch the landing part, but they subsequently captured a little bit of wind noise or something like that. So, anyways, yeah, looking forward to seeing a lot more stuff on the Perseverance thing. So, yeah, we've been really looking forward to seeing some of this stuff.
Science!
So, yes, science rules, guys. Anyways, so that's the fun part. We have some Tesla stuff we want to talk about tonight, so we're going to get into that. And then a little bit later, we're going to have a little bit of a chit-chat about Cybertruck. I know, Ian, you wanted to have your own little personal rant on the whole thing.
A little bit.
A little bit? Okay.
It's about time, man. I've been waiting to have one of you guys like just go off for like 9 minutes.
No, we'll see. We'll see. All right. We're going to try something a little different here tonight. I'm going to be sharing out some tabs here so you guys can follow along on what we're talking about. Look at this. All right. First tweet. Actually, it looks like Tesla's driver profiles are finally have some indication that they're moving to the cloud. This is our friend Green on great hacker on Twitter, who's discovered this little bit here. I'm just going to read it off here verbatim. It says, this script is designed to be run at least at the end of every firmware installed. Its purpose is to migrate previously global vehicle data and settings into profile settings. As more types of data and settings migrate to become per profile, the script will incrementally move each new piece across. Once moved, the original global yada, yada, yada. I'm not going to read the whole thing at this point, but the bottom line here is that we're looking at the possibility of finally the first indications that the driver profiles are indeed moving to the cloud, which is something that Elon said that they wanted to do for some time. Obviously, for robotaxi and stuff, that comes into play. But I there are many times where it'd be really nice to, like, if you have a fleet of cars and you want your driver profiles to float between them, that's a nice feature. I mean, you get all your settings like radio channels and all that other stuff. So I think it's a long time coming. I'm looking forward to it. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but
It's cool. I mean, there's no question it's cool. I mean, it's not the biggest thing I've been looking forward to, but it's like every little upgrade counts, right?
what are you looking forward to, Ian?
Well, getting FSD beta in Canada, that would be a nice start, wouldn't it?
For some of us who've paid for it. Yeah, I don't know. There's a whole discussion going on right now as far as what's taking so long. I mean, why they keep increasing. I mean, that's beyond the scope of today, but
Yeah, it's a whole other discussion. But yeah, you're asking me. That's one, and I'll be the first to admit, as opposed to everybody else on planet Earth, I'm not. I don't need to be one of the bleeding edge beta testers. I'm perfectly happy to wait till some fairly well baked version of it comes out, and I don't have to like super watch everything it's doing. But I think the big question mark, and I'm fairly certain this is the reason they're holding back on giving it to us right now, is because they want the winter to go through. Because I still don't understand how they're going to solve the camera blocking part of it. That is a giant question for me.
Speaking of which, since we're on the topic, we're kind of jumping ahead a little bit here. Let's talk about FSD real quick. The whole Mars blog catalog on Twitter said that this FSD thing is going to be really big. Elon came back and replied, says, most people have no idea, even though there are so many FSD progress videos posted. Monroe understood this right away. There will be a gap before the next release, but then it will be a step change for the better. Tesla is solving a major real-world AI problem. So that's the latest we have on the FSD thing. So don't look for any kind of updates anytime soon. And then someone hopped on and asked Elon what the situation was. It's our friend John from Silicon Valley Owners Club. Saying that FSD was amazing. Elon was responding that we're upgrading all the neural nets to surround video, including subnets on local areas and many other things. So more time is needed to validate and write the software, maybe something next week. So kind of delay, kind of explains some of the delays that are going on. Again, no information as to when we're going to see it in Canada or maybe even Norway, because that was the other country that we're expecting to see. So anyways, that's the latest that we have on the FSD thing. Let's jump around here. We're doing some Elon tweets. The next one, if I can get it to come up here. Now, if you've been paying attention, Model Y Standard Range Plus is gone. It's been taken off the configurator. It made all the news earlier this week, and everybody was asking what the heck is going on. Someone had asked Elon, does this mean that the long-range rear-wheel drive reservations will be made to offer more range? You mentioned that a while back. Elon replied, says, we have too much product complexity already. So it appears that SR Plus is dead, and I was kind of surmising, well, maybe it left a bit of room for a long-range rear-wheel drive, which is perfectly feasible. Elon went on to say that he said he felt that the SR Plus didn't meet their expectations. So it's sad to see. Someone had sent us a question, which we'll answer a little bit later in the show, that kind of ties in with this a little bit. But that's the latest that we have on the SR Plus. I do have another tweet here that I'm going to bring up. We can show. And if it will load. on my screen. There we go. Why was the SR standard range Y removed? And he says it's still available off menu. For how long? Limited time only. You know how it goes. So he says he doesn't think the range in many drive conditions yet meets Tesla's standard of excellence. So obviously he's talking about the winter, because winter can be pretty brutal on range for these cars. Again, our usual recommendation, if you live in a colder climate, spend the money where you can't upgrade, and that's put it into the battery. Right, Ian?
Indeed, although I got to say, I was heartbroken to see it go, because it was such an incredible value, just for all my friends here in Quebec, because it was eligible for
The rebate.
for the rebate, exactly, the $8,000 provincial rebate, and that made it a real bargain for somebody who needed the space. They have families, they need a whole lot of stuff, and now it kind of puts it back out of reach for some folks. So
Yeah.
I think, I sort of appreciate where they were going with it, but when people compare what you were getting, value-wise in terms of the range it would offer, I think compares very well to the competition. What else can you buy that has that much cargo space and would still go, close to 400 kilometers, or, whatever it was, 240, 250 miles. So I don't get it. There's something more to the story. There's a lot of people saying, well, maybe there just wasn't enough margin in it. Well, then bump it up another $1,000, $2,000. It's still a great price point for people. I'd like to know if there's more to that story. I don't know.
I understand that for the folks who are looking for an entry level version of these vehicles, I totally understand that. But I guess a way to think about this is, if I look at internal combustion cars on dealer lots, you don't get the option of, so what size gas tank would you like? How far do you want to go in your Ford F-150, right? A lot of the skeletal changes from one vehicle to the next have nothing to do with how far the car is going to go. And ultimately, I feel like its range efficiency is a big thing. And, I understand from Elon's perspective, we want to make it easier on us to get these cars out. And to produce them. And we understand there is a desire, but the hope I would have too is that the U.S. government, we have heard this in the news recently, could potentially reinstate some of the incentives for purchasing an electric vehicle, which, if that were to be the case, would be a boon to those who are sort of now at a loss of getting an entry-level electric car like the SR Plus, but then also go, well, hey, now I can actually see a tax savings if I do end up getting a more. So, hopefully that'll be something that they tie in together at the same time. We'll see how that pans out in the months to come with government. But those are things you can hope for. But ultimately, if someone's looking at, a $40,000 car versus $48,000, yes, it adds up with interest and everything else, but is it really going to be that difficult for some people? Yes. Is it something that's going to deter someone from buying it if there's incentives in their state or across the country? Maybe not. And that certainly varies, US, Canada, overseas, and everything else. But I think it's going to be helpful that if those things materialize, that, you may end up getting a much better vehicle for around what you would have paid for if those things all come together.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on it. Speaking of incentives, there was a little bit of breaking news today. Let me just bring this up here for our friends in Nova Scotia, Canada. Haha, guess what? You guys are going to get a rebate. Nova Scotia is the fourth province. Currently, there's only 3 provinces that offer a provincial rebate. Ontario dropped out in 2018 after our government elected Doug Ford, I should say. Anyways, so it looks like the government of Nova Scotia is going to be offering up to $3,000 in electric vehicle incentives for new cars, and up to $2,000 for used cars and trucks. And there are a few other things too. There are also some incentives for e-bikes and also some referral credits too. So if you refer somebody, you get a little bit, and some other stuff. So good news on that front. Again, it still qualifies for the EV rebate at the federal level. So if you combine both with cars that qualify, again, we don't have all the details at this point. Probably wouldn't surprise me that capped out at about $55,000, much like the federal rebate, but you could potentially get up to $8,000 off. So pretty much matching what's going on in Quebec, right, Ian?
Yeah, in Quebec, we get 8,000 from the province, and in the case of Model 3 SR, that also qualifies from 5 for
Oh,
the
so
feds.
it's 8,000. All right, so
It's a
even more.
crazy deal. Yeah, that's we go through zillions and zillions of 3 SRs around here.
Well, that's why there's so many EVs in Quebec and why they're doing so well. We had a really good program, obviously, up until 2018. Ontario qualified for up to $14,000. Now, of course, we didn't have a federal rebate. That came after the fact when that was all canceled. So, yeah, right now we only have BC, Quebec, and Nova Scotia out of all the provinces that offer an EV incentive at the provincial level, and then you still have the federal. Ontario, well, for whatever reason, we're in the backwaters again on that front.
And I do want to stress this. I mean, I feel like this ties in a bit to what's happening in Texas here in the U.S. We've seen around the world where countries and governments provide incentives for going with green technologies, whether it's solar panels, whether it's low energy appliances, if it's electric vehicles, whatever it might be. If you're buying something that's going to improve the energy efficiency of your home, or have products that help to decarbonize the atmosphere, and governments are willing to help you fund that through your taxpayer dollars that go into these government programs that are essentially our grants and paybacks, we find that that's very helpful. Those nations tend to do very well with making that transition. And we see a government in Texas that wants to have less governance, right? They want to have less restrictions on the way they operate. And we saw, as a result of Winter Storm Uri, what that means and how a lot of people are now having skyrocketing electric bills. There was a report that came out today that because of their deregulation, they've now seen about $28 billion with a B dollars extra now required by homeowners using the electric grid than had they been regulated in the United States. $28 billion more coming out of the state of Texas because of energy. And ideally, like that's not how you help to decarbonize our atmosphere. So I really do hope that people who are interested, whether you follow the show religiously or whether you don't, this is not to make it political by any means, but if you are earnestly interested in the future of our planet, find it useful to maybe call your representatives in local government, state government, federal government, write letters, whatever it takes to let them know what you believe. If there's some news that comes out with the potential, like we have now in Nova Scotia, where there's this new program coming out, if you're interested, let them know you're interested. Even if you're not in the market today, maybe 18 months from now when your lease is up, you will be getting an electric car. Do everything you can to not only support the programs, but to encourage additional programs to do that, because the more we embrace these programs, the more we incentivize these transitions to going green, the better off we'll all be in the long run. And governments know it saves money. Like, you're going to expend this money up front, but if you don't have all these decarbonization programs trying to clean the air, clean the streets, clean buildings, you save a lot of money, and you save the health of many, many taxpayers.
Yeah, health is a very important one, because that's a very overlooked fact here, because, pollution and stuff affects everyone. So if you can fix that, you also fix some healthcare problems too along the ways. So.
If I could just throw something in on there, Eric, that touches exactly on what you're talking about. This week on, I don't know if you guys listen ever to Chris Hayes. He's obviously one of the anchors on MSNBC, but he has a fantastic podcast called With Pod. Why is this happening? I love listening to it. And he had on a guy a couple of days ago, David Roberts. He goes by the handle on Twitter of Dr. Volts. He's an expert on energy and politics and so on, runs a fantastic blog site on this. And he had him on the show to talk about how the U.S. power grid works and the infrastructure and like what the incentives are, the profit incentives, and how the companies are incentivized to do everything very old school. And he talks in depth about what happened in Texas and why it isn't so obvious. And then it's just not a bunch of flashy talking points in the media. Anyway, I highly recommend it for anybody in the U.S. or anywhere in the world who wants to understand how the power grid system works there. What works about it.
It's complicated. It's very, very complicated, but also very archaic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. So I can't recommend that one enough. So yeah, David Roberts on With Pod.
Excellent. We'll have to look that up. Tying into renewables and solar panels, well, we do have a little bit of information, a little update here from Elon. Someone had asked him, when will the solar roof be available in Canada? Because right now all the focus is on the U.S. And he said later this year. I have a reservation for panels, not the solar roof. The solar roof is just too expensive. I just did my roof. I don't need that. But I'd be very interested in panels. And still to this time, no movement on that front at all. I mean, if I was really desperate, I could, go to another company or something like that. But I'd kind of like to have the Tesla system. So anyway, I jumped in. Nah, I didn't hear back from them. So sadly on that front, nothing's really going on. Any thoughts on that before we move on to some Starlink information? No?
Not really. I know a lot of folks who are here in Florida who have had orders for the paneling and are waiting and waiting and waiting. And some of it is production on Tesla's end. Some of it is permits here in South Florida. So it's weird how we're the Sunshine State and we make it very hard to get solar panels installed.
That's always baffled me.
It's always been weird. But you know what? I will tell you, I understand part of the complications with it. I really do. Part of it is that every locality has its own restrictions, staffing, applications, all of that stuff, right? Sometimes it's the order in which we get them. Sometimes they're split out based on what kind of permit request it is. So that's complicating it, because if you live in one county, it could differ in how they process it versus the neighboring county. But at the same time, there is, I don't think the demand is there quite yet to really kind of knock on Elon's mind to be like, yeah, this also needs to be a focus, because a lot of customers are sort of impatient with this. The solar roofing thing, that I understand sort of being a slow out the gate process, but the solar panels, that's been a thing that they've had for years now. And I know that the Buffalo facility has been sort of ramping up production over there of those various cells, but it is kind of weird that there's still a lot of lag in that. But hopefully the next quarterly call, hopefully that can be something that can be mentioned and see what movement has been from now his tweet to the actual quarterly call, and see what they've really done at that point.
Well, I'll keep my eye on that, because that's something I would very seriously consider. Just a little bit of information on the Starlink. Matter of fact, I got an email from the guys at SpaceX today saying, hey, you want to reserve your Starlink? And I'm like, I don't really need 150 megabits. I get gigabit now, so I'm going to pass on that. But anyways, someone was asking on Twitter to Elon, asking about the active coverage map, and Elon said that the plan is to have most of the Earth covered by the end of this year, by all of it by next year, and then it's about densifying the coverage. Important to note that cellular will always have the advantage in dense urban areas. Satellites are best for low to medium population density. So don't think that Starlink is going to fix your internet problems, right, unless you really live way out in the boonies and the cottage. I mean, it's really for something like the cottages and the places that can't get like a proper landline. Like I have cable for my internet, that type of thing. So, but I think there is a place for it. I think that might be interesting, provided that we can make it work, is like mounting something like that in the back of the Cybertruck, so when you go camping, you can just have it go like that.
Big time.
Right? That'd be awesome. That'd be awesome. I'd like to do that.
Am I the only person concerned about space debris?
It's funny you mentioned that, because every time I see like the launches and stuff, I'm like, man alive, there's a lot of junk up there. But I mean, space is a big place. I mean, it can't be like WALL-E, where they take off and it goes through the junk belt as they.
But a lot of the stuff that's in low Earth orbit, or LEO as we like to call it.
LEO.
If there's NASA has to track all of that stuff to find out when they're launching things or what windows are clear. Yeah. So I can imagine you just some private company launching a whole bunch of satellites over and over and over again. At some point, you kind of go, God, there's a lot of stuff up there. And so, I mean, imagine if some random piece of debris that came off of a dead satellite somewhere else that's now basically burned up in the atmosphere, or some component from a shuttle that happened years ago, or some space junk. Like, imagine something just hitting one of those, and all of a sudden, like, there's like that knocks that part out, and people are like, "Where's my internet?" I just wonder long term, how's it all going to work out.
I'm sure you guys have seen the damage of a piece of space debris flying at 17,500 miles per hour, the size of a grain of sand, the kind of damage it can do.
Catastrophic.
Who is it? Which lab is it that has the cannon that simulates that? I think it's a railgun cannon.
Probably, but I did see a piece of like that. I think it's just like aluminum. It's got a big hole in it like this, and that just comes from a grain of sand hitting at that velocity. Yeah. So it's no doubt that they have to track that stuff. The thing is with the satellites, the Starlink satellites, is that they're relatively small. They're very low orbit. We're not talking 400 miles up here. They're
Right.
very low, and they have a little bit of maneuverability because they have ion drives on board, so they can move them around. But they have a finite life. They're actually designed after a certain amount of like couple years, whatever, to burn up. Don't quote me on that as far as the timeline is concerned, but they are designed to burn up. So they're not going to be up there indefinitely. But
So they definitely deorbit.
yes, yeah, they're playing. I mean, the first batch that they sent up, that they were called Tintin or something like that. They're to be they are to be decommissioned fairly soon, I think, because they were the first test bed and stuff. So, anyways, yes, there's a lot of junk being thrown up. Imagine what the bottom of the oceans look like too.
Oh, don't get me started.
Let's see here. I got to get track of my... Okay, so let's talk a little bit. Now, you guys won't be able to see the video, but I will show the viewers who are watching on YouTube. Again, if you're listening to the podcast, I apologize. But we got our first look.
You don't even care.
We actually got our first look at the refreshed Model S interior. I'm going to play... If it will come up. There we go. So it looks like it's in factory mode. So the person gets into the back and shows you the new entertainment screen in the back, the updated doors. This one is a cream interior car. There it is in factory mode. There's bits of the dash that are not installed quite yet. Interestingly, a round steering wheel, not the Yoke. It looks like the Yoke thing still hasn't seen. Our friends at Kilowatts down in San Francisco been driving around, been seeing lots and lots of these refreshes Model S, but nobody has spotted the Yoke yet. So I don't know what's going on. Anyway, so like I said, the car is in factory mode. Still has the the big binnacle, the horizontal screen, which is gorgeous, by the way. I really like that. I mean, we knew for some time that when Tesla was going to get around to refreshing the Model S, they were going to go to horizontal screen. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. So anyways, looking forward to that. I did have somebody reach out to me today and offer me a chance to review one as soon as he gets it. He's expecting to have it sometime next month. So I'm looking forward to be able to check out that car when I get it. Any thoughts on this? I mean, I'm hoping that the materials are good. The fit and finish is good.
So when you saw this video, which I think the first time I saw it was courtesy of our friend Raj when he tweeted out the video.
Yep.
The two thoughts I had were, number one, I know the car is not a finished interior. You can see there's different components missing, as you noted, which makes me think that this is a prototype, an early prototype. And number two, it's possible that the Yoke is not a standard steering wheel. It could be part of a special package that's yet to be released, or at least not mentioned on the site, that could be released at a later time. Because we know that oftentimes the initial rollouts have one design, and all of a sudden go, hey, we're changing the center console, everybody. Hey! So it could be that the Yoke is something that's down the line. It could be now waiting for approval from various agencies.
It's funny you say that, because I'm actually going to look at the Tesla website right now and look at the Model S and check the interior here.
But like I said, I think that there could be initially the first production vehicles could have the round steering wheel, and then at some point the Yoke is introduced.
Yeah, I'm just going to search for it here real quick.
Yeah,
because I think it was mentioned on the U.S. site. They show the Yoke in the photograph. I'm on the Canadian site, so I'm going to switch over to the U.S. site here. So.
While I was looking for that, Ian, you said you were going to go on with something?
Yeah, no, I was kind of with you. I figured this is going to be an option one way or another, because it was mentioned at some point. It originally, like, the Yoke was standard, and if you want a conventional round wheel, well, we'll hook you up. We'll give you that option type of thing. Mm-hmm. And then there was all the controversy is NHTSA going to allow this? And I mean, there's nothing specifically in the regs that says you can't, but I don't know how anal they're going to be about it. But yeah, to Trevor's point, there it is. It's still on the website.
It's on the American site, but it doesn't show on the Canadian site.
Version. Yeah. So, and yet all of the prototype cars, as we've said, are so far rolling around with the round ones. So on the Joe Rogan show, Elon was talking like this is a done deal. He says, "Oh yeah, don't worry, you're going to love it. It does this, it does that." It's right. It was all in on it. So,
I mean, I think people put too much stock in prototypes anyway. I mean, the Model 3 didn't have the wheels, didn't have the matte finish that we saw when they were first showcased in 2016. So, like, people need to just, like, calm down, whenever there is a vehicle out for testing, it could be they're doing something specific. And for right now, having the standard steering column could just be an easier way of doing certain performance tests versus having the Yoke installed. And, while it's one vehicle out of who knows how many prototypes they have, not every prototype might be out in plain view for Joe Smith to go see. It could very well be that it's track tested, it's in certain places where it's camouflaged. I mean, there could be a number of things we don't know. We've seen photographs before this video release from this past week where the videos, like, you can't tell, you can't see the inside. It's tinted, it's at a certain distance, it's fuzzy pictures. So this is one look out of who knows how many that there could be out there. But I wouldn't put a whole lot of stock into this specific video, into thinking anything when we know this could just be the first of many.
Well, by all intents, it looks like these cars are actually going to be delivered next month, not this month as originally planned. So I think maybe the Yoke thing is probably part of the delay situation, because they were supposed to start production, and yes, they have been producing pre-production cars, which we've actually seen, but none have been delivered yet. So I think it's still up in the air. I think maybe this steering wheel thing probably still has something to do with the fact that we haven't actually seen any deliveries yet. Anyways, it's just speculation at this point. But.
Well, that and delivering a car on March 31st still means you were delivering them in March.
That's
so
true.
It doesn't have to be March 4th. I mean, whenever we see these, delivering in March 2021, it doesn't mean it's March 1st or 5th, or it could be literally the
31
end
days
of the month.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we'll keep an eye on that. Ian,
No
you
matter
gonna say
what,
something?
I gotta say, I love the interior, particularly the instrument cluster and the dashboard. Oh my God, did they ever do a stellar job with that?
Yeah.
It's like that big, giant horizontal screen with the binnacle over the steering wheel. Oh,
Yeah.
And I think it makes a lot of traditional Model S owners happy. Or for those who were hesitant to get an S initially, knowing the changes were coming, going, are they going to do the 3Y, very minimalistic? And they did a hybrid of the two. They really took the two concepts and said, we're going to merge a very futuristic design with this new display. And I love the wide display. It's so much better than the portrait display.
Yeah.
I mean, most people even use their cell phones when they take pictures by turning it into landscape mode. So I think it's great.
Yeah, I think it remains to be seen. Hopefully, what happens with the Cybertruck. We'll have a discussion about that here in a second. Given the fact that they've gone, I mean, we know the Cybertruck is going to get a 17-inch horizontal screen, but is it still going to get a binnacle as well, or is that still reserved for the higher end cars? We'll see what transpires. But I'm so used to the Model 3 layout now. It's like I can't see myself having anything in front of me anymore. Although I do have a product that I'm looking at that's kind of interesting. That's a discussion for another day. Speaking of Cybertruck, we do have a little bit, well, not really an update, but Elon was just replying to our friend John at Silicon Valley Owners Club that he was just checking out the final design in the studio, saying the final design is looking really, really good. So everybody was jumping on saying, can we get some information? What's going on? Elon had said that they were probably going to show the Cybertruck in its final form, maybe in a month or so. Obviously, that time has come and passed. Personally, I don't think they're going to show anything until production's actually ready. This is just kind of how Tesla operates. They want to delight us. I'm hoping they didn't dumb it down. I'm hoping they keep the look the way it is. Add the usual mirrors, do the little refinements and the touches. Really looking forward to seeing what the final product is going to look like. I mean, there was a lot of talk again about them possibly scaling it down. Because at first they were saying, back when Jay Leno had looked at it, he says, we thought it was too big. We're going to scale it down to 5. And then Elon said no. And then now he's back down to 3% again. So it's like, guys, you have a lead time here. You got to finalize your design and order parts and production stuff. You can't be making changes last minute. You're going to delay this product. We all know that there's always lead time with this stuff. And Elon just seems to, I don't know. He just gives me the impression he doesn't care.
well, he'll just make it happen. I mean, he'll bang the entire industry will tremble and things will happen. I mean, we've seen it time and again. He just does stuff on timelines that are next to impossible.
Yeah. So, speaking of which, since we're talking about the Cybertruck, there was some discussion online, Ian, that you got involved with, and I'm curious to see what your thoughts are. Everybody wants to have a little piece on this, and you're talking about the stressed skin situation, because I know there was a lot of noise made about when Elon said that it was going to be more like an airplane's wing, and the skin was going to be stressed and not an internal structure. And even myself, I got involved with the conversation in the sense that it's not just the stressed skin. There's more involved here. I mean, there's the castings. He did say that there's going to be castings for this thing. It's going to have a structural battery pack. So, anyways, I'll leave it with you. You say what you need to do, and then we'll see where it goes from there. What were your thoughts as far as that conversation was concerned?
Well, first of all, yeah, this is a discussion I got in onto Twitter because somebody, and maybe Trev, you can throw it up there at some point. We should have prepared and put the tweet up. But somebody put up this gorgeous rendering of what was essentially a Cybertruck wagon. It looked like, an SUV.
That was me.
Or you posted it originally?
I did.
Okay.
Well, I retweeted it, but yeah.
Okay, yeah, I just don't know who the OP was, and I always like to give them credit. So whoever did the render did a stunning job on it, and I don't want to take anything away from that. And of course, a lot of us all had the same reactions, like, "Oh my God, it's the Cybertruck family truckster," which is kind of what it looked like, right?
Here's the tweet we're talking about. I said, yeah, I have to admit, I kind of like this. FineLab has a line of protective coatings that were engineered to protect your Tesla's paint, leather, carpet, plastic, and wheels, effectively blocking all those UV rays and environmental factors before they ever get to ruin your brand new baby. FineLab offers a complete line of car care products and ceramic coatings for both the do-it-yourselfer and professional detailers. Did we mention we also have the world's first self-healing coating? Check us out at finelab.com, that's spelled FEYNLAB, to see the science behind the self-healing. Check out our product catalog and click Contact Us for a free quote from a certified installer in your area. FineLab and Tesla. We were meant for each other.
It's stunning looking. I absolutely love it. I mean, I think the Cybertruck's a cool design. I think this is even better looking. And we've seen, ever since the Cybertruck came out, it inspired a whole series of different design studies, right? I mean, people want a cyber sedan, they want a cyber roadster, they want a cyber coupe. I've seen every iteration of this. There's no question it has a lot of influence, and it's generated a lot of back of the napkin ideas and some stellar, like, realistic rendering there. But the one thing that keeps coming back, and it's just a pet peeve of mine, is people don't seem to understand how reliant this whole concept is on the fact that these are joined structures. In other words, it works like a pyramid or like a truss roof, if you will. And the fact that it's got this one angle at the top, and that the A pillar and the B pillar, if you want to call it that, it isn't really that, it's the entire structure of the truck, joins. And, it's sort of acting like a box girder bridge. So you have this entire enclosed structure that's got 3 millimeters thick steel, enclosing it. And that has to do a lot of the work. I mean, we know there's going to be some reinforcements inside it. Sandy Monroe's talked about this. We know there's castings underneath. There's obviously going to be hardened points for the suspension to attach to, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But in large part, in order for this thing to make any sense from a weight ratio, that skin has got to do the job. And I mean, I listened very carefully to Elon when he explained this at the reveal. And he's like, this is really the primary strength of the truck. So it brings the cost down by having this one very, I won't say simple, but relatively simple shape that they just fold, sort of like a little bit like origami, to create. And you eliminate a lot of these very complex little internal structures that you typically have to put into a unibody vehicle to do the same job. The other thing too is this has got to be way stronger than the regular unibody, because this isn't going into a car or an SUV. It's a pickup truck, and it's going to be tested and used like a real pickup truck. And to date, the real markers for that market are body-on-frame trucks. I mean, Honda's had the Ridgeline, and we've seen a few other manufacturers kind of go at them with these hybridized pickup trucks, but none of the traditional pickup truck customers take them seriously because they don't have the towing capacity or the load capacity of a true body-on-frame truck. So when you look at that shape, don't for a second think you can saw big chunks out of it. Like we saw people, cutting away that sort of flying buttress in the rear to give it a more conventional truck. Like, no, it's not happening. You're going to watch the bed fold up, like an envelope. Like
the best you can do is probably build some kind of like camper insert or something like that.
Yes.
But as far as modifying it, I mean, somebody has modified that Model S where they made that, what do they call it, a skating brake or something like that, or shooting brake, sorry. That's what they call them in England, where they basically made a station wagon out of a Model S. But that's a different animal altogether. That's your traditional unibody, and you can chop it up. I mean, a la Truckla, like Simone Yates did.
It's super easy on a unibody just to put in, a little more bracing, a little more trussing, wherever you want, and boom, you're back to close enough rigidity that you can get away with it. This isn't that kind of party. Not at all. To your point, Trev, I think the only thing would be to put sort of like a wedge piece, a complementary, like a reverse angle wedge piece on the back to sort of square off the back. And now, if you want to put windows in that, you would have a wagon-esque shape.
Yeah, so I have the screen from the Cybertruck up here from the Cybertruck page. Now, this is not a 3D not a 3D design or anything like that, but we can probably glean a few things from this image. Namely, there's your external, stress skin structure on the outside. But if you look very closely at the image, there are a bunch of stamped steel pieces on the inside as well. There's a bunch of compound curves and stuff. Obviously, you can't do that with that thick stainless steel. So that's obviously going to be some steel parts, because you need to hang things like the instrument panel and the seat belts and your areas for your door closures, your seats, all that interior stuff needs a structure as well. And then, of course, we're going to have castings, likely in the front as well as the rear, to handle the suspension stuff. But a lot of this stuff will be bonded somehow to the exterior to the skins. And the thing is I think a lot of people don't realize that when you take a structure like this and you cut holes in it, you have to reinforce it in some ways, because you got all these closures, right? All the doors, everything, in the automotive industry, they're called closures, which is all your doors and your trunks and stuff. All of those areas have to be reinforced. Because the doors, there's no doubt in my mind that the doors are going to be very strong with internal bracing and structure and stuff. But you can't just have a sheet of metal and just hang plastic off of it. I'm sorry, it doesn't happen like that.
Anyway, that was it. Rant over. I hate coming off as a killjoy. I hate being negative in any way. I hate destroying people's artistic dreams. But just take it easy with the Cybertruck concept stuff. If you want to use it as an idea, that's like, hey, we could use a Cybertruck and basically build a monocoque style vehicle, a unibody vehicle that imitates the style. I can see that happening, but it's going to be a lot more expensive to do.
One of the first things I can see as far as bodies. Yeah, I think one of the first things to see as a body is concerned is like one of those truck caps, and it'll be made in the Cybertruck style with, maybe not 3 millimeter thick stainless steel, but some kind of cladding, maybe aluminum or something like that. Just kind of mirror the style. I think that would be really cool. There was a lot of discussion online as far as, of course, in the same vein here, as far as what they were going to do at the back end. Because I think most people, if they look at the truck, you can get used to the front and the side profile, but the back of the truck, there's just something about that flat expanse of backwards tilted tailgate that really throws people off.
He went completely, he was referring to it as the cyber dumpster or something like that.
That was Mark.
He just could not get past that flat back.
But I do want to bring up the picture that our friend Mike at Cyber Owners did. I'm going to bring up the picture here. Just give me a second here to share out my screen.
Oh, is this one with the embossing?
Yes, and I thought it was brilliant. So where is that picture that Mike did? Let me see. Yeah, I'll find it. He posts a lot of stuff. He's active on Twitter.
It was a cool idea.
Was it this? Yes, here it is, right here. That, my friends, I like that. And all he did was just take the back and just kick it in, maybe about 5 inches, just on the bottom. Just brought it in a little bit.
That little fold in the bottom, the logo in there.
Yeah, and he added the tail lights, coming up on the side a little bit. Perfect. That's nor here or there, but that simple crease in the door, in the tailgate, I think drastically changes the look of the vehicle. I don't know what it is, but to me, this is where it should be. Now, all things being considered, hopefully it doesn't affect the sliding ramp that's built into it. Who knows how Tesla's engineered that inside, but I don't know. Again, what Tesla does and what we think they're going to do are two different things. But I like the idea of this one. It looks quite good. So, kudos to our friend Mike for doing that drawing. He did another one here. Oh, here, I'm going to bring this one up. Sorry about jumping around here. I keep sharing my screen and stopping. But I thought it was interesting. This one's pretty cool. I like this idea here with the stylized Cybertruck name on the back. Remember when they did the intro? Yeah. They did this one-off custom font. I think that looks pretty cool. I might do that in vinyl on the back. That would look pretty cool. Anyways, didn't I hear some time ago that Elon or somebody said, maybe it was even Franz, might have been on Ryan's podcast when he had Franz. They said that they weren't going to label the Cybertruck at all. It wasn't going to be badged.
Absolutely. I'm pretty sure that was on the Franz episode.
I'll have to listen to it again. But, yeah.
With a body like that, do you need to?
No, that's. I think that was the point he was making. Is like, there's not going to be a need to do this.
You're mistaken,
right?
So, anyways,
is that the new Honda? Come on, you don't. There's no need for that.
Right. Well, that brings us to the part of the show where we answer your viewer and listener questions. I want to say thank you for everybody on Twitter who submitted that. By the way, when we do these shows, which either Wednesdays or Thursdays, follow my Twitter feed. I put out a questionnaire. If you want us to answer any questions on the show, you can fill those in. All right, Eric, take it away. Who's got the first question for us?
First question comes from Ben in Rocky Mountains, Colorado. Could the demise of the Model Y SR Plus be an indicator of the fate of the single-motor Cybertruck?
See, that's what we were going to talk about a little bit earlier. And I've had this conversation with many people before. It's hard to say because, when they introduced the Model Y, they said they were going to do a long-range rear-wheel drive variant of the car, which they haven't done and don't plan to, apparently. So there's precedent in there for them not delivering on something that they promised. Of course, if you look at the Cybertruck on the website, they say that they're going to do a tri-motor, an all-wheel drive, and a rear-wheel drive. Now, I know on the show we've talked about this before. Ian seems to think, and rightly so, that you need a low-price vehicle for fleets, right? We've talked about that. Sure. However, by the same thing, Tesla doesn't seem to be afraid of canceling something if there's no demand or they feel that it's not in their best interest or whatever the case may be. So there's always a chance, the what he's talking about here, the single motor rear wheel drive Cybertruck, despite the $40,000, or slightly sub $40,000 price start, may not end up being made. Who knows?
I think that's crazy.
I think it'd be crazy then for them not to do it.
Yeah. No, I take in order, certainly in the early, because, there's so much concern about them being able to get to volume initially on it, just to get the thing out there, even if they don't make a huge amount of profit on the rear wheel drive ones initially, but just to get the thing up and running, to be able to get the volume of scale, to get the economies of scale, sorry, is what I was meaning to say. I think it makes a lot of sense. And for the fleet operators, there's a huge difference in price. Certainly the way they're configured right now between the rear wheel and then when you go to the dual. So I can't see how they're going to drop it. It's a far more critical market. I mean, with the Y, coming back to what Eric said, in a lot of areas, especially in the US, there's not a huge price gap, especially when there's no incentives involved. It doesn't make that big a difference, but on the Cybertruck, it does. And it's a much more segmented, much more sensitive, there's all sorts of little different market tranches, from super cheap work trucks up to these $100,000, King Ranch mobiles and everything in between. And you got to cover those bases if you really want to cover the truck market.
Well, don't forget the plans have changed on the Cybertruck. Originally, they wanted to do the rear-wheel drive first, and then the all-wheel drive and the tri-motor were going to be later in 2022.
Yeah.
And then because of demand or whatever the case may be, they flipped those around. So the tri-motor and the all-wheel drive will be made first, and then the rear-wheel drive will be made later. So to me, I mean, the way I read it is that is a demand situation. Most of the demand is probably for the higher-end configurations. So you never know. It might get the axe. It also reminds me of something you were just mentioning, though, too, because if you've noticed recently, there was a video, I think that Casey Neistat posted, retweeted for somebody on TikTok and stuff, that showed the interior of the new F-150. Have you guys seen that? How the mid-bench comes down and it's got the laptop and all the storage? Holy crap, that's cool. I hope we get something like that. I mean, one would hope. I mean, if you look at Tesla's history, is that, the Model S was, I mean, if you think the Model 3 is really minimalistic, you haven't seen a Model S, right? It doesn't even have door pockets. It doesn't have coat hangers. It doesn't have any of that stuff. So the Model S was the original, like, super mid-century modern, like, simplistic, bear down. But as they've grown the product line, they've added more and more creature comforts. Model X had door pockets. Model S didn't. Model 3 now has, door pockets and the kangaroo thing in the back and the door hooks and all that other stuff. So I'm hoping that evolution of the next vehicle, which is namely Cybertruck, because Model Y is essentially just the Model 3, it's just a little bigger. I'm hoping the Model Y, or Cybertruck, I should say, would have a little bit more to be, I mean, if you're going to be in that market with everybody else, you're going to be competitive, right? And it's not just on specs. You got to do the interior too.
There's so much gadgety stuff now in trucks. I mean, in some ways they have way more features than even some luxury sedans, that's been super competitive. Because let's face it, between the big three American pickup trucks, what is there between them? There's a little bit of style difference. Everybody has their brand preference, but that's how they differentiate themselves. It's like, there's like an endless amount of cubby holes and little things where you can put your computer and da, 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 da. They've just been developing that. So they're going to have to come out of the gate with something that's at least equivalent.
Well, one would hope.
Introducing the Cybertruck Kitchen Edition. Cook your meat and have some fun at it. I mean, come on.
Well, Elon did say some time ago that they were going to plan a bunch of sick accessories for the Cybertruck. What those mean, who knows? As with anything, it always leaves lots of doors open for third parties and other manufacturers to spruce it up and do all kinds of stuff. But yeah, there's something to be said about having some of that standard stuff in the Cybertruck. Again, it opens up opportunities for Tesla to do upgrades down in the future too. Remember, Model 3 didn't have a charging pad, and it didn't have the same center console. Since changed, right? It's been arguably improved for a lot of people. So, anyways,
I mean, my sentiments really come down to, it's a good question asked by Ben, but we've come to know that whatever Tesla does initially at launch for any vehicle they've ever had, it always changes. The price changes, a feature changes, the colors change, what's standard changes. Like all these changes come around. It could be they launched an SR version of the Cybertruck, and 6 months later it's gone.
Oh, yeah.
Because the numbers don't warrant it, or they find it that it's cost effective to really just go dual motor, or the technology is so cheap now that it's actually cheaper to get a dual motor made anyway, and you're actually saving money in the long run. There's a lot of things that can happen. I think the thing that I've always thought about is it's a great, it's like that interesting problem where if I have two different drink beverages, one's $3 and one is $7, you sort of just compare the two and you think, okay, which is the better deal? But if I throw in a third in the middle, it sort of distorts where the value is. Having just two options, and we've known this too, and even with their design study with other cars, the less options you have, the easier it is for them to not only have supplies in their warehouse or the factories to make the cars, but it's also easier from the buyer to configure the car. Because if you have, this is really a matter of combinatorics, right? Let's go back to math. If I have 3 color options of this and 7 colors of this, and you start multiplying all the things together, you have how many different kinds of cars? You can't do that with any other auto manufacturer anywhere, right? Like you don't have like 5 color options, and some things are off menu, and it's complicated from a build perspective, because then you're like, well, how do we know what paint to get if we don't know when they're going to order that certain color? So I think we're jumping the gun so early because the car's not out yet. Again, it's a good question to ask. It's good to have this kind of fodder. I just think it's premature because they could initially launch the SR and then find the numbers don't warrant keeping it and then decide to kill it like they did with the Model Y. Whether it's for efficiency or other reasons, again, Tesla would have its reasons for doing so. But I think from a build standard, it's better just having all with dual motor. And I think most people would go that way if they're looking at, if I'm going to use the truck for ABC reasons, I'm better off going with dual motor, especially if I'm going to go off-roading or camping or whatever it is, especially if you're in wintry conditions, you want the better traction, et cetera, which we already know now, dual motor EVs do better.
I'm with you on that. That's why both my reservations, one with FSD, one without, because I'm hedging my bets on that, both all-wheel drive. I want nothing to do with rear-wheel drive. It's got to be all-wheel drive.
And your points are all well taken. There's no question it works better. Can keep the number of variants down. But this idea that, Elon himself is complaining, oh, we've already got too much product complexity. Bro, I manage a vehicle database. That's what I do and get paid for all day long. Ford alone, if I count all the variants of F-150, entry in my database is 100 and something entries long. Every combination of powertrain, bed length, drivetrain, transmission, gross vehicle weight rating, suspension system that you can order. It's mind-numbing how many, and they somehow manage it. I mean, this is a super price competitive market, and they can offer 100 different buildable versions of that truck. You're telling me you can't build 5? Come on.
Well, I also would make this argument. If you think about grocery stores, there are major chains, Kroger's, Publix, many others, right? Wegmans, that sort of thing. If you think about Trader Joe's versus some of the bigger chains, if you go to Publix, for example, and you go down for paper towels or toilet paper or some staple like that, you'll find 25 different kinds of toilet paper, right? You go to Trader Joe's, you get 2.
Yeah.
And we've come to understand that when you have fewer choices, it's easier to make a decision. If you go to Cheesecake Factory, you will literally spend 30 minutes reading a 125-page menu, but a lot of exquisite fine dining restaurants or on cruise ships, for example, have 5 entrees.
Yeah.
That's what you're picking from. You're not picking 65, you're picking 5. And it's part of it is it helps the kitchen staff in terms of preparing food and all this other stuff. But it just makes the experience overall for the consumer a lot easier. I don't want to spend 25 minutes figuring out, well, this roll has 1,000 sheets, but this one is dual ply. This one is actually got you drive yourself nuts. If I literally have 2 choices, it's a lot easier. Building cars, to me, because of how much goes into that, is the logic behind it isn't that much different, but the complications are so much more than toilet paper.
I think part of it, though, too, is if you look at it from, I mean, you look at BMW or Mercedes, that's more of a luxury segment, and those kind of buyers tend to be a little pickier. And so if you look at the product variations of that, I mean, you look at Apple, for example. When you go buy a laptop, I mean, yeah, you can choose a screen size, RAM, and a hard drive, and that's it. I mean, it's, 3 colors, 2 colors, maybe. Okay. And that's about it. But if you go to BMW, Mercedes, whatever, or I'm sure if you went to Bentley, oh God, I mean, the product variations, but that's a different segment, right? So I don't know. Does Tesla need to have as many variants as Ian says, 100 and some odd variants of the same car?
No. Not 100.
Can they? Maybe.
But I mean, 10 is not out of the question. I mean, 10 versus 100 it's an order of magnitude less complications.
You know what? But for me, as far as buying something like that, I'm just happy to pick, okay, I want a big battery. I want all-wheel drive, maybe choose an interior color, FSD, maybe a couple of accessories or something like that. And I'm kind of happy.
Yeah.
That's just me.
I mean, we see with Model 3 and Model Y, there's 2 interior colors. We know with S and X, there's more than 2. But for Model 3 and Y, you don't hear a firestorm on social media like, why are there only white and black colors? Like, it's
our normal, right?
Right, but that's the thing, though. If you initially present that and you don't know the alternative, then you have what you're given. That's all you're going to be able to choose from. And you either go, black looks good or white looks good, or you either don't care. And I think that if all of a sudden we see another vehicle, let's say let's call it the Model 2, the smaller version of the car.
Please don't call it a Model 2.
Right. Fine. Let's call it the Tesla Mini. But whatever we're ever going to introduce down the road is like a $20,000 entry-level electric vehicle. It wouldn't surprise me if there's like one color option for your interior seating. If there's like 3 paint colors, like you don't have to go, to diversify the different building options in the studio to really make the buying experience more complicated. And I understand that you want to reserve maybe more options for the higher cost vehicles. Maybe Cybertruck has certain interior configs, but like when I'm thinking creature comforts, I think the semi-truck, like that's the one that's going to have like a great comfort mattress in the back and all kinds of cool amenities. Like that's the thing I think would be like the ultimate creature comfort vehicle because of its design. But the aftermarket space, the accessory space, a lot of these things we're talking about that people would like to see, yeah, you can certainly get that in the aftermarket. And that's what those companies are there for. So ideally it benefits both for Tesla to keep it minimalistic from a cost perspective, but also to allow those companies to be able to support the aftermarket products that help to give the look that makes your vehicle unique.
So just out of curiosity, just to compare apples to oranges, if you will.
Apples.
Apples to apples. I brought up the Rivian, so you guys watching on YouTube can follow along here. I brought up the Rivian website and look at the R1T, which is their pickup truck. Just curious to see what kind of options they offer. So they offer an Adventure package and an Explorer package in 2 pack sizes, 300 plus and 400 plus miles. And then let's see here, 2, 4, 6, 8, about nine different colors. An off-road package, 5 different wheels to choose from. Camp kitchen features, add the camp, add the wheels. And then you go to your interior, 2 colors of interior, so ocean and black mountain, although I think it changes depending on the configuration that you get. And that's about it. So not 150, but certainly more than what Tesla offers at this point. So there's precedent. And like I said, I was just curious to see somebody who's in the same space.
Sector?
I mean, how many people are going to be cross-shopping a Cybertruck with an F-150? I don't know. There's people going to want an EV, obviously, but am I going to look at a picture? Oh, I saw this neat Cybertruck. Oh, it's an EV. It doesn't matter to me. I'm also looking at the F-150 or Ram or whatever. I don't know. I think more people are going to be cross shopping with with the Rivian. Personally, that's just my personal opinion. So, anyways, I just thought I'd take a look. But anyways, and we're talking about essentially the same time frame for both of these vehicles being on the market, which is early 2022. Cybertruck, we'll see. I think it's going to be more like a Q2 type of vehicle, but
I also think Tesla's more profitable having less options. Just my thought.
Well, I would hope.
There's no question. Simplicity lends itself to profitability, but at some point, do you limit yourself if you're not giving all the choices that consumers want? I think in the early phases, they've proven with the cars that it works. This sort of Apple-like philosophy. It's like, well, here you go, any color you want as long as it's white type of thing, or not far off that. It's like you used a beautiful example, Trev, with the computers. Like the Mac computers are very simple and straightforward in their choices compared to most of the PC offerings. So it works now, but I think down the road, if they want to really keep the expansion going, they're going to have to expand outwards, especially at the higher end, because like you said, when you look at I personally think the lineup now from Mercedes and BMW is gone completely mad. You don't need
bananas.
27 body styles. It's completely out of control.
Completely mental, man.
Yes.
Yeah.
Have you seen how many cars BMW offers now? Even in the X series?
I remember me have to manage all this stuff and look at every option and every engine and every transmission. Right? Oh,
a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, a 7, an 8, an X, a Z, an M, an I series. Oh my gosh, it's just complete. I remember when I bought my first BMW. This was around 1996 or so. There was a 3, a 5, and a 7. That was it.
Yeah.
And of course, the SUV craze took over, and then of course,
I'm a firm believer in we overcomplicate things in many companies. Shopping for something at Costco is so much easier than shopping on Amazon. Like you look for a single thing on Amazon, and you're just scouring through how many pages and different variants.
I gotta share the screen.
This is 24 count. This is 64. This is a 10 count. Like, oh my god! Like, but if you go to Costco, here are the 3 light bulbs.
All right. Here's BMW's site. I'm on the Canadian site, so don't be freaked out if you see prices that'll look different. All right. So here's what they offer, right? 3 BMW 2 Series.
Oh my god! Here we go.
So,
2 3s.
Right.
Right. Here's 3 4s. 1 5. 4 7s.
Oh my gosh.
3 8s. And how many X's?
11.
Oh my gosh.
A whole page full.
1 Z. Beautiful car. I used to have a Z3. And then look at the M series and all the M's. But look at the X, just out of control. But that's what's selling, right? SUVs. That's all. Yeah, that's what's happening.
And they somehow still make money at the end of the day. So,
gotta stay in business. All right, we beat this horse to death. What's the next question, Eric?
Are you sure? I feel like we can get another 30 minutes out of it.
Oh my god.
I am not reading. This Twitter user has asked from Redwood City, California, has anyone been able to get the Tesla to credit the value of the eMMC recall towards an MCU2 upgrade, especially if the eMMC recall parts are in short supply and won't be available until the spring?
Very good question. I have not seen anything along that front. My personal opinion right now, Tesla might be bad, but I would hold off on upgrading any MCU2s because this recall is a pretty big deal. So if they're going to recall, I would wait it out and see what happens. If they offer you an MCU2 free of charge as part of the thing, keep in mind, they're not, the EMC is a chip. It is a memory chip on the board. It's not the whole board. So, and I haven't really looked into it, so I don't know exactly how they're going about this, whether they're swapping boards as a whole, or it's a little daughter card, or they're just taking the daughter card out and then hot soldering or air soldering, because you can do that and swap out the chips. I don't know exactly how they're going about it. So at this point, it's kind of unknown. I think people that are interested in this really should let the dust settle and see what happens. Now, what he's asking about here is because the MCU2 is an upgrade that you could have paid for, and Tesla did reduce the price before they did this official recall. So the people that have bought the MCU2 are now asking for some kind of like refund or whatever, because now I spent the money, now that it's an official recall. So that's where he's asking to see if there was any kind of like a credit for that, for getting like, instead of waiting for the retrofit or where the case, or not the retrofit, getting a credit to get the MCU to upgrade as opposed to some kind of, compensation for the recall. I think that's how I read it.
Could be.
Yeah. Anyways, so my answer is no. I haven't heard of anything along those lines. As far as I understand right now, is that they're doing the recall, and when your number comes up, they will call you, and they're going to replace it. Now, whether they offer you an MCU2 as part of the deal or for some kind of upgrade fee, I have no idea. Keep in mind, the MCU2 is a complete board upgrade. The EMC is a small component part of it. So don't expect too much as far as I'm concerned at this point. So, all right. Last question.
Last question is from Per Stoltz in Norway. As I live in Norway, I'd like to see a winter mode where we'd be able to choose between and all-wheel drive settings. Is that something that could happen to you guys?
Yeah, if you have a performance Model 3, sure.
I was going to say, we have the full candy store when it comes to all of that stuff.
Yeah.
I'll be the first one to say I've been lobbying since day one that the rear-wheel drive and the basic dual motor cars have at least a couple of more choices. At very, very minimum, some sort of a sport mode for the electronic stability control so that you can get a little bit of drift on, Like if you buy the base cheapest Audi A3, A4, BMW 3 Series, whatever, the cars that are competitive with Model 3, they all have that. It's pretty much just a dumb switch that does one thing, but at least it lets you have a little fun. Unless you go to full performance in a Model 3, you don't get that at all.
It's all about the base.
Yeah, pretty much. So I think there's room for improvement there, but at the same token, I think that they're terrified that if they give too much to the basic cars, then there's less incentive to move you up to a performance model, which is obviously where they make huge margins. So the struggle is real, but still, like I would love to see the base cars get a little bit exactly of what Bristol.
I would agree on that. Yeah, I mean, we're being facetious because we have the performance cars, but I would agree with you on that. Yeah. So it doesn't take much for them to do. I mean, if you really want to, you can just pull an ABS sensor and you can hoon all day long, but not safe.
Well, aren't our friends at Mountain Pass doing something with their little box?
I have to talk to Sasha with his party box. I'm pretty sure he can do that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
He did do it with his Model Y. He's got a party box for the Model Y now.
Exactly. So, I mean, once warranties are expired, if you want to start messing around, you can. No question. I wouldn't do it under warranty. No way, no how. But once the warranties are up, I mean, that's where it'll get fun. I mean, the aftermarket will definitely get us there if Tesla doesn't want to do it themselves. But I'd like to see them do something like that. I don't think it's unreasonable.
No. Speaking of warranty, Ian, where are you sitting with your car in terms of mileage? And
there ain't much left, buddy. I'm at 72,000 kilometers. So what's that, about 47,000 miles? I'm almost out.
No, that's more than that.
A little over 2 years, and I will have killed the warranty. Yeah.
I'm gonna look at mine while when you guys are chatting, just to kind of see here. I am at 39,353. So thanks, COVID.
Yeah, Face ID. I'm just curious with my car. See what I'm seeing at. You guys are gonna laugh at me. I'm at 40,700 kilometers exactly.
That's still not bad. I mean,
I'm doing really good. I'm doing really good on that front.
My largest commutes now are like running to the grocery store,
except my
shopping, stuff like that.
Except my supercharging.
Get out of here, man! Like get out of here. You know what? I quit. I'm not even waiting for show 100. You jerk.
Because I have it for as long as I own the car, but I paid an extra $6,000 to get it.
What was the expiration date on your numbers there, Trevor?
Mine are good until April of 2023. So if I get the truck and the roadsters, I'll be covered for a little while.
You know what? If you just afterward long off now and you get the show posted, just go ahead and start driving to British Columbia, and then just start going back and forth a few times looking for a new house.
Hey, you know what? If this COVID thing kind of relaxes, we've decided that our summer trip this year is going to be out to Vancouver. So maybe August, September, we might head out west. So the debate is: do we bring the car? Do we fly? What's that, Ian?
And we lightning run it back.
Oh.
You know what? No, the hell with that. Do the lightning run there.
Yeah.
Don't do it both ways, man. Come on, see if you're faster one way versus the other.
We'll see in the summer months. We'll certainly beat the 73 hours.
And just
hey.
get like a bladder bag so you can actually just go to the bathroom in the car.
No, that's what windshield wiper jugs are for. Windshield wiper fluid jugs are for. Oh, goodness. Well, any other closing thoughts before we wrap this one up, boys?
Man. I will say, just very vaguely, if you are a bad person who does bad things and you're not very intelligent, they will find you.
Yes.
That's it.
Well, there's
just
a whole
no context.
Yeah.
Just no context.
Yeah,
that's just
that was referring to a whole discussion we had before
There's
the
a
show.
story
So,
there.
yeah.
We'll tell it another time.
Excellent.
Yes.
Well, I think that brings us to the end of the show. So I want to say thank you for everybody for listening. Eric, since you're on screen, why don't you tell us where you can find you if you want to have a chat with you online?
Sure. Thanks so much. So first things first, you can find me on Twitter. The handle is ECFix. That's ECFIX. If you're watching on YouTube, you see my handle right there in the bottom corner. I also have a weekly podcast called Call Me Curious. It's a 10-minute podcast. Each episode is designed to give you 10 facts, 10 random disassociated facts about the world around us, and provide some interesting context to life in general, but also with some whimsical puns by me. Each episode again is each episode is about 10 minutes, comes out about every Wednesday right now. It's back from a hiatus, a long hiatus from last year.
It's a great show, though.
It's a pretty good show. We're on episode 33, just dropped today when we're taping on the 24th. We feature stories like how a queen came to owning 2 tricycles by its inventor. We learned how brain synapses basically just they shrink down while you're sleeping, which actually helps with your cognitive ability. Go figure, which doesn't seem like it works for me very much. And we also discovered that pigeon poop was used for weaponry back in the day. So all kinds of really weird, random SHIT we discover on the show. So weekly podcast comes out, available wherever you get your podcasts. It's hosted on Anchor, but you can get it on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, you name it. It's out there. So just search for Call Me Curious, subscribe, rate, review, and let me know what you think. Again, roughly every Wednesday now, it's 10 minutes. In the time you're making pancakes or getting dressed in the morning or berating your kids for not doing their homework, you can listen to a show. So do it, get smarter, be ready for trivia nights, all that good stuff.
Please go subscribe. It's an awesome show.
Thanks.
All right, Ian, you're next.
All right. Well, on Twitter, you can find me. The name is at Ian Pavelko. Pretty straightforward. At the Tesla Owners Online Forum, the handle is at Mad Hungarian. Happy to help you with any questions there, either on the forum format or on direct message with Twitter or in the open public space, as it were. And finally, if you're looking for something interesting in the way of EV wear, you can always go to teespring.com, look up Mad Hungarian Evolve Wear, and get yourself something in the Evolve Wear line. And I'm proud to announce I did my first space-based artifact.
Yes, I'm going to bring it up here so everybody can see it on YouTube.
Thank Eric for that one, because we had a little discussion on our little private chat group, and we were talking about that. Last week, when Perseverance was landing and all the hype was going on, they did a comparison between the new wheels on Perseverance versus the old ones on Curiosity, and they've literally worn holes in the wheels of the Curiosity rover. That's how much mileage they put on this thing in the last year. It's are you not seeing it, Trev? It should be.
I'm on page 5 and I still haven't found it. My God, you got so many different shirts, dude.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of crazy. I have it on mine. I can share it from my screen if you want, but I mean, it should be there somewhere.
But if you're watching on YouTube, I am modeling one of the original designs for purpose of mass adoption.
Mass adoption, exactly. So anyway, I thought a cool idea to do with is it's a little close up.
I'll pull it up on Twitter.
Yeah, there you go. Find it on Twitter. But yeah, I couldn't resist doing a little themed of this well-worn rover wheel. It was just too good not to do something. So that's
Ian, where did you put it? My God, you're just as busy as I am on Twitter. Bloody hell.
Ian's very GIF happy. Seriously.
My
You're
gosh.
not looking at my feed.
I am. I'm looking at your tweets. I'm looking at your replies too. My gosh.
No.
Dude. All right. Well, anyways, rove it like you stole it. That's what it's called.
Yes, exactly. What happens if I share my screen now?
Try it.
You see? Continue with share screen. Ta-da! Can you see it?
I cannot.
No way.
We see your shiny mug. That's all we see.
It won't let me do it. Oh,
But if you want to see it, go to his short story and see it, or
what
you
am
can
I
go follow
doing?
him on Twitter. And
No, I got it. I got it.
What did you do?
I got it. It's right here.
What a
Teespring. There
great
you
end.
go.
This is
Like you stole it.
This show could not end in. This is our finest ending ever.
I love it. It's a great shirt. Go check it
Look at
out.
that.
Buy one. Wear it with pride. There you go.
exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thanks, Ian. Well, I guess that leaves me. If you want to follow me, quite active on Twitter. The handle's Tesla Owners Online. Check out the forum, teslaownersonline.com. It is free. It doesn't cost you anything. Best place to go talk about Tesla. We just did a software update on the thing, and it's going like crazy. But please, go sign up. Doesn't take you anything. It's like I said, it's totally free. If you're on Twitter or Facebook or Google, it's a 2-click affair, and you can join. That doesn't take very long. And that's about it. Oh, I want to say thank you to our sponsors, the guys at Evanex and the guys at FineLab. They do great work. So thank you for being continued sponsors. We really appreciate it. And that's the end of this show, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks, and we'll see you next time, guys. See ya.
Bonsoir tout le monde.